Morning, Sully. How are you today?
Pretty good, man. How was your Christmas holiday?
Oh, we had a very good time. Everything was very, very nice. And what about you?
Pretty good, man. Did Santa bring you the throwback Nintendo play system?
No throwback Nintendo.
You probably still have it in your garage somewhere, right?
My garage is a disaster. I never had Nintendo. I must say I never had Nintendo. I was the only thing I could remember was having Atari. So we're going back. We're going back way back now.
Did you have the Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson game where they look like stick figures?
It would have looked like stick figures, but I couldn't even remember what game. Pong, maybe. I don't even remember at this point.
How crazy is that the original Nintendo game is now a hot product?
You know, my kids are my youngest. He's going to be a freshman next year. He's into the Xbox and stuff, and you know it's crazy that you look back at some of the stuff and you say, man, I had that when I was like his age, you know, and then it's back. It's like these retro Jordan sneakers, you know. I see they sell them for like $150, and I had these Air Force Ones back in the day, and I think I paid like $35.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
That's when you know you're getting old, when your kids are into retro stuff, and you're like, hey, that was cool back when I was 15.
Yeah, that's just old school for me. You know, forget the retro.
So, yeah, Kevin, we wanted to catch up with some of the area sports reporters and get their take on 2016, the year in sports. What jumps out in the top of your mind as some of the top stories?
You know, I think, it's the thing that really jumps out to me is that, the things that went on in New Jersey that probably shouldn't have happened. And the things that, while we always tend to want to focus on the positives and highlight the kids and that. But, you know, from time to time, there's going to be stories that maybe you kind of don't want to have to write and you really don't want to have to report on. And it's kind of like the flip side of things. And, really, I was thinking about this over the past week when I knew I was going to talk to you for a little bit. And the thing that really hit me with 2016 is how many stories came out of this state that were kind of on the negative, for the lack of a better term, they were on the negative side. You know, all these stories involving the NJSIAA, especially within the last, 6 months or so. I'd never experienced a summer into the fall, really into the winter, where there was so many stories of issues of transfers and things along the lines of Timber Creek and Wayne Hills and adding groups to wrestling. It just seemed like there were so many stories out there that you kind of just shook your head at and was like, man, what is this all about? And for me, a lot of people will say I tend to dwell on the negative, but those stories really kind of jump out at me as being the big stories of the year. The whole saga with Timber Creek that's still not over with. A situation where a Wayne Hills football team up in North Jersey, they're in, they're out, they're in. We're flipping the schedule around, and things along those lines. And it's just, I guess maybe that's just the way things are nowadays. But those were just a couple of things that really kind of jumped out at me. When I look back on 2016, and maybe because they are so fresh in my mind, but I think I'd love 2017 to be a year where we focus our attention more on all the positive things and we really get to zone in on some really good things that are going to happen this year.
Well, you mentioned the Timber Creek story, and that was such an interesting story from a reporter's standpoint, just because you guys, yourself and Mark and whoever else reported on that, you kind of had to turn into a news reporter almost. You were interviewing people that you normally wouldn't interview, prosecutors, this kind of thing, and trying to doing some investigative reporting and digging up all this kind of stuff. How interesting was that for you to kind of go into a different role almost than a normal sports reporter? You almost had to put on your investigative hat.
To be quite honest with you, it was something that I cannot speak for Mark, but for myself, that I have never in nearly 30 years of covering high school sports have I never had a situation like this and spent the time and put in the time and effort to get information and to talk to people and do the type of work that we did, when we broke that story, that story was very delicate, and it continues to be that way. And we put a lot of time after time, while we're still maintaining coverage of the fall sports, and in the summertime doing other things, getting ready for the fall, and all the work and all the prep it takes for what we normally would do during the course of a week. Add that on top of it, and we put a lot of time and effort into it because we knew the importance of the story, and we realized just how sensitive it is, and with a story like that, this was not going to be something that if you found out about it at 10 o'clock in the morning and you had to turn it around by 5. This was something that went on for months and continues to go on, and like I said, it's I've never had to dig, never had to use resources, and never had to do some of the things that we did to get information in 30 years. So, in one aspect, you could say it was maybe exciting that you're using your resources, you're digging for things, you're trying to find the story, you want to get the story, and you want to get it right. And on the other side, it just became, at times, burdensome and very difficult to deal with because every day seemed to bring something else. And, like I said, for me, that was the story of the year from my perspective, just because of the magnitude of the situation. And like I said, we're still not done with it.
Kevin, take us through that a little bit in terms of how you guys went after building those stories. Obviously, there had to have been a lot of meetings with editors, department head, all kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot you have to think about when you're covering a story like that. And what was the editor's take on it? How many meetings a week did you guys must have had? There must have been a lot of behind the scenes when you're talking about putting these kind of stories out, because like you said, it is a sensitive issue with high school kids, teenagers. So I'm sure it was a difficult process, and a lot of people converging on how exactly to report this as a newspaper.
Yeah, when we first got the information, I believe it was probably late May, early June, somewhere in that neighborhood. We had several meetings during just that first week alone, and throughout the process, we were constantly in contact with there's probably about 4 or 5 of us in the office that have kind of dealt with the situation, bouncing ideas off each other, making sure we were talking to the right people, asking the right questions, and still really making sure that we were doing everything we could do to get the information we were entitled to. And it was very time consuming. It will remain to be time consuming, and you have to. We talked to literally dozens and dozens of people and went through really a considerable amount of information just to get certain items. And in this situation, you have to make sure that you have everything right, and you just can't. You have to have more than just one person read your copy. And we went through several layers of editing, the editing process, just to get what we have and make sure that we've kind of covered ourselves as far as making sure that what we have is the facts, and we can back up the facts, and we have that information available. So, like I said, it was extremely time consuming, and but a story that when presented to us and we looked at it, we kind of thought that this was something that had some life to it and had some legitimacy to it, and we were going to see what we could do. And I think Mark did an absolutely fantastic job with a lot of the work that he did. I give him a lot of credit in what he did to talk to people and to get information. And as far as our editors are concerned too, they were right on top of everything, because we wanted to make sure we had everything absolutely correct and absolutely the most that we could get. And the one thing that kind of bothers me with the whole situation is that some people think that the Courier-Post and Mark Tribble and Kevin Minnick were out to get Timber Creek, and we were out to bring down their program. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Any newspaper, given the information that we had received, would have done the same thing, and would have attacked the story in the same way. We were certainly not out to bring down any individual, any kid, any program, any administrator or what have you. But when the information presented to us, and you start to dot the I's and you start to cross the T's, and you develop you find pattern of events and things along those lines, we were just doing our job. And sometimes that's difficult for people to understand, especially when at the same point we were continuing to cover Timber Creek throughout the football season. It made for some very difficult situations at times, and people want to think that we were out to get them, and that couldn't have been further from the truth. So, it's a story that does not have an ending yet, and we're still waiting for the NJSIAA to see what to make their comments and to make their decisions, and then we will report that the same as we reported everything else. And whether Timber Creek receives a penalty, whether nothing happens, who knows? But certainly we are not out to get anybody. We're just doing our jobs.
Talking with Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post. Kevin, switching gears a little bit, guys like yourself, me, Mike McGarry, we've been in this business a long time, and things have changed so much since we first got started. Looking ahead to 2017, you guys did a lot of new things this year. You had that 2-minute drill video. How often do you guys get together as a staff and meet and say, hey, toss around new ideas, how to connect with the high school athletes, the parents? I mean, it's the age of social media. It's short attention spans. Do you guys meet a lot and say, hey, this idea might work, this might not? How can we make better use of social media? How can we drive people more to our website, drive people to our print product? There's so much involved with high school sports reporting that I think people don't really understand. Talk about that a little bit, and how you guys try to continue to improve every year and get better and really make a great product to put out there for the fans.
Yeah, technology changes all the time, and that's the biggest thing. And generally we all often meet during the course of a season, but really we'll meet going into a season to try to sit down and bang out some ideas of what we can do for that particular year and that particular season. How can we put the iPhone to the best use? How can we drive people to the website? Because like you said, that is kind of the ultimate ultimate thing right now, is driving people to the website. And how can we best use video? How can we use Twitter and Snapchat and Facebook to basically, in a lack of a better word, to your advantage, to take advantage of what's going on out there. And certain age groups go to or are driven towards certain things. And Twitter continues to be a huge thing for us as far as covering high school sports, because people want instant gratification. They want to know the scores as they happen, and there's no better tool than social media to do that. And you just have to try to find ways to kind of tweak that every now and then to bring new people in, to generate new followers. And back in the day, and going back to my old school mentality, is there was often a time where you had to wait till the next day to look at the newspaper to see who won a game, and unless decided to call the office and find out, which tons of people usually did. But people you had to wait till the next day, and there was no to break a story was to break it in print the next day. And nowadays, to break a story is to have it up on Twitter, and get it out there, and then build upon it as the day goes on. But we meet, like I said, we'll meet several times heading into a season. We'll meet during the season, and we never. With our philosophy, sort of is to the effect of, why not try something? What's the worst thing that can happen? And I remember an editor that I had going way back when I was at then the Gloucester County Times, and he said, don't be afraid to try something. If you try it and it didn't work, okay, it didn't work, we won't do it again. But if you don't try, if you don't put yourself out there a little bit and see what the reaction is, you'll never know. So, those things you try, and they may appear in print or they may appear on the website one week and maybe they're gone the next. They didn't generate the numbers. Maybe it wasn't a great idea after all. But then there's other things that may turn out to really work, and so you learn by the reactions of your audience. And for someone who covers high school sports, I'm zoned in on the kids. I'm zoned in on their parents. And if you can get those two groups, that's a tremendous start. And then you kind of fill in the gaps with everybody else as best you can. But nowadays it's geared towards the kids. And I will make comments on Twitter here and there, and people will say I'm crazy, or I'll make comments that are pretty brutally honest sometimes that people don't like, they don't understand, and they want to know why it's there. But that's the nature of the business now, and you put that information out there and you see how people react sometimes, and you go from there. But obviously technology has come a long way from the days of using a Tandy computer with phone couplers, so it's been a long time, and we will continue to grow as technology grows, and try to keep pace as best we can.
Good stuff, Kevin. We're up against the break. Got to let you go, but always enjoy talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your New Year's Eve, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in 2017.
Hey, I hope I'm back on the show at 9:15 next Saturday.
You got it, man.
All right. Sounds good, Sully.
All right.
You have a nice New Year's.
You too. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
That was Kevin Minnick of the Courier-Post.